I'm Cookie, and welcome back to another episode of the Untold Origins, the series where I talk about the backstories of one or multiple minor characters from my series Legends. Like last episode, I'll be continuing to talk about the Guardians, a group who are tasked with protecting an ancient weapon called the Beacon of Light, up to the point where all the enchanted animals and Night meet each other. If you haven't heard what happens after and want to know, I recommend watching Night's video as I discussed it there. In this episode, I'll be talking about Misty and Birdie, as well as Birdie's bounded bird, Feather. Both born on the south side of the Evergreen Forest, it will be several years before Misty and Birdie would actually meet each other. Prior to that point, they would have very different upbringings. Misty grew up in a middle-sized colony of disappearing cats. She was the only kid of her parents' litter, and didn't really have anyone else her age to play with. This allowed her to become very close to her parents, but she struggled to connect with anyone else. That didn't stop her from trying. Disappearing cat colonies are big on collaboration and contributing to everyday needs, and so, Misty would make sure to excel in these areas. This did allow her to interact with members of her colony, but it also made her very busy. Since the leader recognized her skill, she would be tasked with many of the hardest duties. Misty did complete them, but it also left her with little time to herself, and her fear of isolation kept growing. One day, a disappearing cat named Foresight was tired of the current leader's reign and challenged him. The two fought, and Foresight, being younger and stronger, won and killed the leader. Many were outraged over the leader's death and were calling forth another candidate. Who could possibly be a better leader than me? Why, Misty, of course. Me? Yes. You were trusted with the hardest duties. You know the ins and outs of the colony. Therefore, you would be a good leader. Misty, though flustered, agreed to fight Foresight for the good of the colony. She gave it her best, but Foresight was too strong and defeated her. Before he could kill her, Misty's parents begged for him to let her live. He agreed, but decided to exile her to prevent the other members of the colony from being divided in their loyalty. Misty was heartbroken, but didn't fight him and chose to leave peacefully. She worked so hard to connect with her colony and to be as useful and valuable to them as possible, only for that to come crashing down. She wonders if her exile could have been prevented if she didn't work so hard to please them. As for Birdie, unlike Misty, he had many sisters to play with. He grew up in a flock of aerial felines, which are made up of entirely females with one male leader. Each aerial feline has a bounded bird, which they work together in a symbiotic relationship. When a male is old enough and has formed a bond with his bounded bird, they are forced to leave the flock to form their own. This terrified Birdie, as he was very close with his sisters, and since he didn't have a brother or any other male his age, he would walk alone. Mom, why do I have to leave when I'm older? It's the way of the flock, Birdie. But I don't want to be alone. And you won't be. You'll have your bounded bird, and you two will rely on each other forever. This didn't satisfy Birdie, so he did everything in his power to avoid forming a bond. He would distract himself with hunting, patrolling, or fighting. He dismissed his parents' concerns, and would try to avoid the topic in conversations. And any time they would bring a bounded bird to Birdie, he would start acting aggressively. This did delay his departure, but his unruly behavior also created a rift between him and his sisters. Eventually, his father, who was the leader, told Birdie that he was going to exile him in a few days with or without a bounded bird. And an aerial feline without a bounded bird is considered to be outcasted from the species and will forever walk alone. So, begrudgingly, Birdie agreed to get a bounded bird. His parents introduced him to Feather, and due to his father's pressure to leave, the bond was formed without a relationship being developed first. What am I supposed to do? I don't know how to form a relationship like this. Well, you brought this upon yourself by ignoring us. This is the consequence of your actions. Now leave. You are no longer part of this flock. Birdie was angry and was glad to be away from his father, but he was sad to leave his sisters behind. And now, according to him, he was stuck with a useless bird. Birdie and Feather struggled to work together, barely getting by. One day, Birdie collapsed from exhaustion, and Feather left him alone. He closed his eyes to rest, half expecting to not wake up, only to be nudged awake. When he opened his eyes, he saw a disappearing cat carrying a bowl with Feather standing next to her. Are you okay? Here, you look like you need this. Thanks. Misty. I assume this is your bounded bird. He brought me to you. Birdie realized that Feather left to get help and was touched by this gesture. He introduced himself, and the two talked for a bit before Misty got up to leave. Not wanting to be alone, he asked Misty if he could join her colony, only to be surprised to learn that she didn't live in one anymore. Then, he asked her if she wanted to travel together. Misty asked if he needed more help, thinking that's why he still needed her. While he didn't mind the extra help in hunting, he mostly wanted the company. She was suspicious, but also wanted to make a true friend, so she agreed. Over the next few months, they got to know each other better and shared their stories. Misty felt that one day, Birdie was going to ask her to leave, so she went back to her old habits. When Birdie noticed, he soothed her concerns and was just genuinely happy to not be alone. She pointed out that he had Feather, and helped him realize to not waste opportunities in relationships. Feather, despite everything, had Birdie's best intentions. After all, he was the one who found Misty. And so, Birdie started forming a real bond with Feather, and with Misty's help, the two of them started working together just as anyone else in their species. Over time, the three of them became really close. Although, there was still a part of Misty and Birdie that felt unsatisfied, as they still longed for a larger group. Still, that didn't stop them from deciding to settle down and claim part of the forest as their territory. However, this ultimately would lead to a border dispute between them and an awkward bunny, a tree mammal, and a howling bat. One that would change their lives forever. And that's all I have for this video. Make sure to comment below what you thought of their backstory. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye!